And so first off, I'd just like to say this is a meeting for the Boyd Acres Neighborhood Association, and I apologize because I mistakenly made this reservation on Zoom through my personal Zoom account and not through the BANA account, but it seems to be working, and I hope we don't get cut off too soon. So tonight we will have two guest speakers, Adam Stephen and Mauricio Dujewit. That's a hard one for me to get my tongue around. I'd have to practice it. They're here to talk to us about the new veterinary hospital over on Brinson Blvd, which is within the BANA neighborhood. And I guess I'll just turn the screen over to them here. So, oh, I just also wanted to mention is BANA is looking for to recruit people for the BANA board, and we are accepting applications at any time. If there are more than one application per position, we'll have a vote on it at our June meeting. Our June meeting will be the annual picnic, and it will be at Rock Ridge Park, and it will be on June 26th, and it will go from 6 to about 7:30. Something like that, and we're still working on details for it, but I hope to see all of you there if you can make it. We'll be providing some kind of food and some speaker or entertainment of some sort. Okay, so now I'm going to do my best to turn the screen over to Adam, and I'll let Adam and Mauricio
actually, if you could turn the screen over to me, that would be better. This is Mauricio.
Okay, put it on yours. Okay.
Yeah, I got a little presentation.
Okay, so I got share screen up, but I'm not able to pick a particular person.
When I push the share screen button, it tells me host disabled participant screen sharing. So I'm not sure how to re-enable that on your end.
Okay. Why is it?
Are you in the participants block where you can see everybody? And
yes, I have that open.
okay, well, check
Okay,
this.
let's see more. Let's see if it allows me to do it from there. Make a co-host.
Yeah.
There you go. And then if we need to turn it over to Adam, please just let me know. I'm not a Zoom expert. I do the basics. That's about all. So please excuse me.
I'm in the same boat. Don't worry. Okay, can you guys see my screen there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, nice to meet you guys. I'm Mauricio Dujewit, Dr. Dujewit at work. And as you said, my last name is a mouthful, so a lot of people just call me Dujo or Dr. Dujo. And that's kind of stuck for about close to 15 years now, so I'm kind of used to that. Well, thanks guys for allowing us the opportunity to kind of share what we're doing. And I thought I'd start off, but just kind of giving a background of kind of where we come in the whole scheme of the veterinary field. And so kind of thought I'd say, you know, who am I and who we are as a group and why we're in Bend and what the veterinary needs are in the community and what we're trying to do in the community or to the community and how we can play a role. And so my background is I actually completed my veterinary school at UC Davis. I went to undergraduate school at University of California, San Diego, and then went to UC Davis. And the path to becoming a veterinarian is basically you go to college. At that point, you apply to veterinary school and you get accepted, 4 years of veterinary school. And then you pass this big national licensing exam called the NAVLE. And then at that point, you pass that, you can practice veterinary medicine. And that's what we kind of consider your general practitioner. And that's what the majority of vets are. Well, actually all the vets in town are, except for at our facility. And then if you so choose to do more, then that's called, additional training or specialization. And in my case, the typical route is you end up doing 1 or 2 rotating internships, and then from there you go on to do a residency in the area or field that you're interested in. And my case, I did a rotating internship in San Diego after veterinary school, and then I followed that up with one in Colorado that was a surgery internship, and then I did a 3-year residency at Iowa State University, and then that was where all my surgical training was at. And then I take another big test and pass that and become a boarded surgeon. And it's a tough test. About 20% of the people pass the first time or so. At least that's the goal, and that's what I hear anyways. I don't know how true that is. And at that point, that allows me the ability to do what truly is my passion, which is surgery, and really focus in on that, and support the general practitioners in the community, and kind of step away from the typical daily needs of pets, essentially. And so after I graduated, or I completed my residency, I went back to San Diego and practiced there at the largest hospital in San Diego. It's a very incredible place. And spent 5 years there, and I got a little bit stir crazy and wanted to do some research. And my girlfriend at the time was happened to be looking to do a dermatology residency. She's actually on the veterinary side, and everything lined up. And so we ended up going to Florida, where I took a position as faculty at the University of Florida, and she completed her dermatology residency there. And so we were out in Florida for 3 years. And while we were in Florida, we realized that we don't want to live the rest of our lives in Florida, and we wanted to head back to the mountains. She's from Oregon, and I've always loved the mountains, and we kind of gravitated to Bend after lots of different conversations and searches. And so, long story short, we gravitated towards Bend, and eventually decided to set up some roots here. And so that's kind of the my story, and kind of the path of becoming a veterinarian, and explains a little bit of the difference between a veterinarian and a veterinary specialist. And so basically what our hospital is comprised of is veterinary specialists. We don't have any general practitioners at our hospital. And so our quote unquote business model is not necessarily to serve, pet owners per se, or pet parents, but also to serve the referring or the general practitioners, because we depend on them to tell us, hey, can you look at this case for me? This is, something either beyond my training, or I don't have the resources, I don't have the staffing, I don't have the equipment, that sort of thing. And then they come to see us. And so our job is to see the sickest of the sick. And so it therefore becomes a really, really, I guess, special place where we have really, really high standards, and try to raise the bar really high to provide really exceptional care, so that we get the outcomes that we're hoping to get on these really challenging cases. Anywhere from dogs that come in paralyzed because of a herniated disc to, as this radiograph shows, performing hip replacements, to really complex internal medicine cases, and a lot of oncology also. And so that's the kind of stuff that we stick to. And the other thing we do also is we also do emergency care as well. So we have a number of emergency vets, which makes sense because our patients tend to be the sickest ones, and we need 24-hour care as a result of that. And so it makes sense to have a doctor there all the time. And if there's a doctor there all the time, we might as well let them come in, let more patients come in and see them at all times of the day if needed. So a lot of people are kind of unfamiliar that there's specialty medicine, or is the specialty component in veterinary medicine. In fact, there's a lot of different areas to veterinary medicine. And here's kind of to list a few of the common specialties. At our hospital, we currently have surgery, we have internal medicine, we have medical oncology, and we have dermatology. We have an ophthalmologist starting in June as well. And so that's kind of the group right now. And we're, as far as, who else are we going to add next? It just depends on kind of what the needs of the community are. And so this is the current team right now. We've turned into a big group, and then we're supported by probably an additional 60 people or so. Our entire staff amounts to about 80 people now or so. So we're a pretty big group, and we stay really busy. And the reason it's so many people is because we're open 24/7. So we're not all there at the same time, but we're all kind of rotating through. And so that's me and our dermatologist / my wife. And so the two of us are the ones that kind of started it all. And then we got my classmate Matt, somewhere along the process, convinced him to join us and start this up in Bend. So it was actually the three of us in 2018 that launched the hospital. And since then we've been steadily kind of trying to kind of realize the purpose that we all set out to do, which is just make a real connection with what we call our patient guests. So they're not just patients, but we want to consider them our guests. And we really stress to our staff that you guys aren't just pet owners, you guys are actually pet parents, and that way we can make a difference. And it's not just solely about the animals, but it's also about the connection that we make with people as well. And that's what makes it really rewarding, when we can make that connection. And whether the outcome is good or bad, my standpoint is I want people to say, I'm so happy I went there. I would have never wanted to go anywhere else. And thank you for, providing me that connection. And so that kind of brings us to our vision, which is to build a world-class facility that allows us to deliver that best care and experience, so that we can, make that connection. And that's where, we've been working really hard with Adam for the past year now, and probably even longer than that, actually, on trying to make this a realization. The current place that we're over at Shevlin, off of Shevlin Road, where the old Copa building used to be, if you guys are familiar with that, right next to Broken Top Bottle Shop. And that's my dog Punch. He's been a trooper. I call him a professional model because I make him do all sorts of stuff. He's even been in textbooks, so it's kind of funny. But this is the building that we're currently in, and it's about 7,000 square feet. And if you can imagine, we are, it's asking me to admit somebody, I think. So I just admitted somebody. If you can imagine, we're pretty packed in 7,000 square feet for about 80 people. At a given time, we have maybe about 30 or 40 people in the hospital. But once you add patients and you add all of us, it gets pretty tight. And with COVID specifically, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the caseload actually grew substantially, incredible amount. So much so that there's multiple hospitals throughout the country that were overrun by such a high caseload that people got burnt out and quit, and the hospitals subsequently had to shut down. So in essence, business was too good. And we've been fortunate to kind of hang in there throughout everything. And we actually have a reasonable caseload from all of the Pacific Northwest, as a result of people being super busy in bigger cities. So not only have we become important to Central Oregon, but we've become a resource for people that can't be seen with urgent cases. And for example, I had a dog come in with 3 different fractures about 2 weeks ago, all the way from Spokane, Washington. And they were told by the veterinary school there that they could see them in 8 weeks. And they were told by the other veterinary hospital that does that level of surgery that they could see him in 6 weeks. And that's a fracture in a young dog that you can't do that. You do that and the dog's going to be crippled the rest of its life. And it had three different legs were broken. So that's kind of the stuff that will have come our way. And another reason why we need a little bit more space. And just kind of some numbers just for fun. This is kind of where we were in the first quarter of 2021 versus 2022, where these are our cases for the dermatology department, internal medicine, and oncology and surgery, and everything's about the same there, except the surgery service grew a little bit. I guess they all grew a little bit, but the key thing that's grown a lot here is our emergency service. And you can see how we went from seeing about 1,000 cases to almost 2,000 cases just with I think not only COVID, but also so many people moving into Bend and needing, emergency services for their pets. And interestingly, we've actually never really advertised too much the emergency service, because we're in a small building and we're trying not to get super busy. And this is kind of our staff interactions. They saw about 3,000 people and in the first quarter of 2021, and close to 4,500 the next time. And same with phone calls. Actually, the phone calls actually have decreased simply because we can actually see people now. And we don't have to do the curbside thing. So thankfully, we can talk face to face and not just be on the phone anymore. So it kind of shows, I guess, how busy we've become, and how necessary, I guess, it is for us to hopefully go into a little bit bigger facility and be able to spread out, and also be able to bring in additional services as a community, needs them, so that we can provide really great care. And I know here in Bend, pets are really important. It's amazing how often it's kind of funny. Owners will confess to me that they love their pets more than they love their kids. It's pretty funny, but it's kind of true a lot of the times. It's pretty funny. So this is a rendering that was done by Adam's team of what the facility is going to look like. And I thought I'd give you guys a tour of the place so you guys can get an idea. And I think everybody's familiar with where it's going to be at. It's basically going to be straight across the street from the FedEx building on Brinson, is where it's going to be at. And why isn't this moving? There we go. And so this is it, and it's a little overwhelming when you look at the inside. This is the first floor, but we can break it down pretty easily. If you guys can see my cursor there, we're going to have 2 entrances. One of them is going to be for the specialty side, so people who basically have appointments and things that are scheduled. And then there's going to be another entrance for the emergency side. And so that's going to be the lobby area, so pretty straightforward there. And then you start going to go into the back here, and in the back there's going to be a series of exam rooms, so we can see the patients and talk to all the pet parents in there. And there's about I think 13 or 14 exam rooms. And then from there we start going to the back of house. So if we're walk this way, we get into the hallway here, and immediately down here we have our dermatology suite, our oncology suite, and in oncology needs to also have a special treatment area and a special hood to I guess control the fumes coming from the chemotherapeutics that can be dangerous to staff. So it's kind of a special facility for that. It's kind of similar to what you would find in a compounding lab where everything is just kind of clean and tidy. Up here we have an ophthalmologist suite. Here we'll be doing fluoroscopy and ultrasound. Fluoroscopy is basically like doing real-time x-rays. There's certain procedures that really benefit from having that technology. Big, massive storage area down here. This just says tanks because that's where all the oxygen tanks will live. This is the internal medicine treatment room and where endoscopies will be performed. And basically, not only endoscopies, but any hole that needs a camera in it. So colonoscopy, bronchoscopy, tracheoscopy, otoscopy. So all of that will happen in here. Here's a little area for a future neurologist. We're hoping that that we'll bring in a neurologist at some point. Right now, the surgeons here on staff, we do all of the neurosurgery, but we're thinking that at some point, the caseload will grow enough that it'll make sense to have a dedicated neurologist on staff. So that's kind of penciled in for them at some point. And back here, we have the surgery suite or the surgery area where we have an induction area. We have two what we call orthopedic suites that are a little bit larger and two soft tissue suites that are a little bit smaller. And then this says pack prep. That's where all the sterilization occurs and where we store all the instruments and surgical supplies. This is just kind of an open work area for the surgery team. And then back here, we have our advanced diagnostic equipment. So we'll be having a CT in the building, and then we will have a control room, and then adjacent to the control room is our MRI as well. Currently in our facility right now that we do have a CT, but not enough space for an MRI. So that'll be a super great addition to be able to improve our advanced imaging capabilities. Just bathrooms. Down here is a pharmacy for both owners and our staff. And then this is kind of like the massive treatment room area. We have a lab here for doing all the blood work. We also have a blood donor program, so there's very large centrifuges associated with that to do the blood collection, because we do quite a bit of blood transfusions with the type of cases that we end up seeing. This is the ER doctor office, kind of a food prep laundry area over here, and just the cages and massive treatment area, kind of a dog run area, a cat ward area. This area is kind of, I guess, separated out. This is going to eventually turn into our intensive care unit, and just a small little area for cages here. Isolation room for infectious disease is going to be right here. And then we're going to have a little physical therapy facility as well. And so that's downstairs. Upstairs is mainly administrative. We have, once you get up the stairs, the key thing that's different from most facilities and most veterinary hospitals. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the veterinary field, but I would say about 90% of the profession is female, and for better or worse, childcare tends to fall on women to have them figure that out. And we thought it would be super cool if we can provide childcare at our facility and make it, I guess for a fact that there's about 2-year wait lists for childcare. And we thought it would be really cool if we can make a dent on that and offer that to our staff. And what we're hoping to do, I think we're gonna have room for about 20 kids or so, depending on, there's a whole ratio thing that gets involved with that, depending on ages. But what we're hoping to do is any spots that are not filled up by our own staff, open them up to the community as well. And have the community members pay a little bit more so that our staff can pay a little bit less. This childcare is not a business I would ever thought I'd get ourselves into, But I think it's something that our staff would really appreciate, and I think it would help with retention and probably recruitment, and we have some wonderful staff members that would really really love to have their childcare woes I guess taken care of and made less stressful. So we're trying to build that into the building. There's a break room, just bathrooms over here. This is a records room, so just a quiet area for more of our customer service staff to be able to make phone calls, receive phone calls, schedule appointments, whatnot. And one of our core values is education. So we have a very big area here so that we can do educational events, continue education for our staff, as well as for the community. We hold regular community education events for the general practitioners. Actually, we just had one about a month or so ago at McMinimans, and so it's something that it's great to get together with sort of our counterparts and colleagues, and get a chance to bring us together and also learn. So we do quite a bit of that, and we want to do more of it. So we have a big conference room for that. And then this is our IT room, phone room, and then just offices. We have a couple small meeting rooms so that teams can break up and do their team thing. And then open office space for the doctors, where there's going to be cubicles so that we can collaborate. We want to be able to talk to each other. It is so powerful to have multiple really intelligent people in their specific areas and be able to turn around and say, hey, my dog is doing this. What do you think? Can you take a look at this? And just bounce things off each other. And it just it vastly improves the patient care to have that kind of environment. And so we really encourage it for our doctors. And with that, I'll just kind of finish off by sharing with you guys our core values for our organization, and then open it up to any questions. I don't know if you guys have specific questions. And I'll yeah, I guess there's a question about solar panels, and I guess Adam and I talked about that at length. And Adam, I don't know if you want to answer that.
Sure. Yeah. So it was something that we explored in this particular case, just due to the massing of the building. There wasn't great advantage. Of course, when you have solar panels, you ideally have a roof that is south facing. It's not that it couldn't be done with the particular roof that we have, but it would require fairly large brackets up on the roof to stand the panels up high enough to get the appropriate sun angle. And then additionally, we did reach out to Energy Trust of Oregon, also a past client, E2 Solar, who also happens to be in northeast part of town in Boyd Acres. And the payback wasn't necessarily there for this type of building and how it was planned to be used. So we ended up not pursuing solar. But one thing that we have done is we have enrolled this project in Energy Trust of Oregon, and there are incentives that come back to the owner for installing sustainable equipment, whether it be Energy Star type appliances or LED light fixtures. Energy Trust of Oregon is a group that we work closely with that incentivizes sustainable design. And that's also what our firm is all about. We actually designed one of the, if you're familiar with LEED, we designed the first ever LEED Gold building this side of the Cascades in Oregon, and have done many since. So that's exactly what our firm's about. And we've implemented that into this design.
And somebody asked if we just treat dogs and cats. And yeah, that's primarily, I would say, 95% of our caseload. Occasionally we do get like pocket pets come in. and we'll have those guys taken care of. Sometimes it's one of those things where it's kind of dependent on the emergency doctor, because usually that's an emergency, and the emergency doctor rarely turns anybody away, or actually I would say never turns anybody away, but they might say, hey, for you to be aware, I don't, I don't see I don't know, rats on a daily basis. I can do basic stuff, but I'm no expert. But if you're okay with that, I'm happy to try to help you out. I don't really get asked too much to do horse surgery or anything like that. There's equine surgeons here in town that do the majority of that. I used to do quite a bit of zoo stuff, anywhere from I guess from snakes to cheetahs to anteaters, before I made it out here, and so that was a super fun part of my career. But I don't get to do that much out here. We occasionally see some birds also, but not too much. And then yes, I did not mention. So one of the things that we're trying to do, is provide a really incredible environment for the pet parents that are waiting there, because the waits can be pretty long while we're getting diagnostics. If they come in on emergency, if you go to a big city right now, wait times can be as much as 24 hours. Actually, I have a friend that was just had to be seen because her dog became paralyzed in San Diego, and she waited 7 hours before finally getting seen. And unfortunately she felt that she had a suboptimal experience at the end of it all. So wait times can be, thankfully our wait times are not there, and but we're cognizant that they can be long. And one of the things we thought would be really neat is to provide an outdoor space, for everyone to enjoy. And so we kind of planned kind of a pavilion area, where we're hoping to have food trucks there. There's no food trucks actually chosen or anything like that as of yet. There'll probably be there if we do go forward with it, there'll be 3 or 4 food trucks. It's something that we're planning on, but it hasn't been necessarily executed entirely on. But we're hoping to make it work. But a lot of it has to do with expenses, to be quite honest with everybody. As you guys know, there's a lot of inflation and everything's skyrocketing, and that's changing things on a daily basis. So we're kind of playing that a little bit by ear. That's something that we're hoping to aspire to create a really neat environment, especially since there's not too many options around that area, and just make it a little bit more welcoming, as opposed to, oh gosh, my dog's sick, and it's just going to be a bad experience. Another question, is there any issue with having childcare facility incorporated with the business, which has medical and possible radioactive waste? So great question. Thankfully, we have not hit any barriers there. It's all very separated. And it's all, I mean, it's incredible how much I've learned from the childcare state portion, and then there's also the city code that goes with it. There are so many barriers to putting a childcare together, because they want to make sure the kids are safe, almost to a fault. And I think that that's potentially a reason why there's not enough childcares. But yeah, we have everything separated and protected so that there's no issue there. We don't have any radioactive waste in our facility. We don't do any radiation treatment, so that wouldn't be an issue. But yeah, foreseeably, if one of the kids was able to get access to the main part of the building, they can get their hands on a syringe, but there's no actual way they can do that unless they had a key card or something like that, and somehow sneaked in. So yeah, there's things in measure for that.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Yeah.
I just really commend you and appreciate the childcare idea because I think it is such an issue for so many parents, and having the convenience of having it at the same building, being able to go check on their child, whenever they have time is great. And then I love the food truck idea, even if it doesn't happen right away, down the road would be great, because we don't have a ton of options for food in Boyd Acres in general that's not fast food. So definitely looking forward to that. This whole facility looks pretty amazing, and I could definitely see a need for it. Like you were saying, our population has grown so much, so services like this are just getting really strained and are really in demand. Did you say when you guys are going to be open? Do you know?
Well, if I had my way, so there's this thing with the city, and the challenging thing is that they are understaffed and really behind on looking at permits, and they can only move so fast. And theoretically, if things weren't as upside down as they are, we should have started in March. And now the projected start date of construction is May. And the other day, somebody mentioned July, which I chose to ignore. So I'm still thinking May. And the good thing is that once we hit construction, it should be 12 months. The builder that we're going with, it's called Empire Construction. And they're one of the big things that they take pride on is finishing on time. And so so we're hoping we can finish on time and not have any setbacks, and potentially even finish a little bit early. I've been doing everything in my power to not be part of the problem, as far as getting things done, and hopefully Adam's been happy with sort of our contribution to sort of make it as smooth as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, Mauricio, you definitely have, and nail on the head. City, unfortunately, it's unprecedented, guys. I'm sure you've heard from others in the community, especially sitting on the neighborhood association, just hearing some of the battles that are going on locally. And a lot of it is definitely staffing issues. A lot of it's just volume of construction. Interest rates are still fairly low, so money's still incredibly cheap to borrow. And a lot of people are panic thinking that interest rates could climb higher. So they're moving with all kinds of projects, and just creating a bottleneck in our building departments, and Bend being one of them. And I've worked in City of Bend for 9 years now and have never seen anything like it. Mauricio's project was submitted, I think the day before Christmas, on Christmas Eve, and it still hasn't even been fully picked up yet. A few reviewers in the building department have picked it up, but we still have 3 or 4 other reviews to get through.
Yeah, I ask that question every presentation that I have, which is a lot for all the Boyd Acres, at least area developments. And that is generally the response, that it's usually like about 6, sometimes even up to 8 months just to get the permits going, unfortunately. So, yeah. All right. Well, does anyone else have any questions, or maybe we can move on if Kathy has some announcements?
Thanks, guys, for listening to me.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. It's great.
There's one more comment in the chat room that says agree. This is from Elsie to everyone. Agree, great on the child care incorporation. The food trucks will be great. Anything we can walk bike to in this corner of town is great. And I'd just like to add something else along those lines. I've had occasion to use your services twice and was quite pleased with what the services I got. I had 2 different cats to go in. So
good. Yeah, if ever anybody has a bad experience, tell me, because our goal is to everybody have a good experience. So we're not perfect, and we want to find ways to improve. So I'm glad you had a good experience. I'm sorry you had to go there, but I'm glad you had a good experience.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
So I think unless Mauricio or Adam has anything else to say, we can probably let you go and just do a little bit of BANA business here at the end, see if anybody else wants to do anything regarding BANA business. So thank you so much for making this presentation tonight. We really appreciate it. It's good for us to know what's in our neighborhood, and we do encourage people that join the Boyd Acres Neighborhood Association to patronize the businesses within our neighborhood. So
Perfect. Thanks so much, guys. I'll let you guys finish up the meeting and have a great evening.
okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. So I just wanted to put a call out for any other business that anybody wanted to conduct. Ashley sent out a summary of what's been going on in other parts of land use to the board. We could probably send that out to the mailing list if we wanted to. Does anybody have any questions for me or any of the other board members? We have Ashley Bebo is our land use chair these days, and I'm the chair of BANA, and I'm doing the Neighborhood Leadership Alliance representative and kind of picking up everything else that's loose. And Joette is our communications chair. Thomas Fisher is our business chair. So mostly, I guess we have staff people here.
We have a couple
so-
others.
What?
We have it looks like a couple others. Do you want me to give a quick rundown of that email that I wrote down a couple notes that I
Sure,
can
that's fine.
share? Okay. Just kind of what's going on in the land use area. So one thing that we've been focusing on a lot is short-term rentals and just trying to get to the bottom of, what's going on with them. Basically, we've had a large increase in short-term rentals, not so much in Boyd Acres, but just in Bend as a whole. The numbers right now are that we have 36 that are approved in Boyd Acres out of 1,067 that are permitted and approved. So it's pretty low compared to other neighborhoods, but it's still something that we want to ask all the neighbors about. So I did send out a survey to everyone. If there's anyone that didn't get it or hasn't had a chance to fill it out, please do, or contact me if you'd like the survey, because of course we really want to know what you all think, not just what we think. So that's one thing, the short-term rentals. The shelter code, of course, has been an ongoing issue, and it continues to be. So there was a lot of public comment, and then the Planning Commission has now made recommendations to the City Council that the City Council is going to review. And then we did send an email out about the town halls that are actually going to be in person, and they are going to be focused on the shelter code. And they're actually going to be question and answer. So rather than the public comment that everyone just said their comments and didn't get to ask questions or get answers, you will be able to get answers at the town halls. So I hope to see you all there. And then the quick update on the library. I know we had a couple meetings about the central library plans, and I was really excited about it. It looks really awesome, but now they're a little bit on hold because they were asking for a conditional use exception that the City Council denied. They want there to be a master plan in place for all 40 acres, which library does not have. So there are some other avenues that they are exploring right now. When the board of directors meets next month, they're going to make some more decisions. But basically they're looking for either a different plot of land to do it on, or some other way to get around those exceptions. So
Wow. That's a big deal. I mean, they put a lot of effort into planning that facility for that location. Doesn't seem like a master plan would be that big a deal. Of course, anybody would want to move forward more quickly than, I mean, from what we just heard, it's such a slow process, but I would guess that they get kicked back to the beginning of the list again.
I know. Well, from what I read, it's that there's one of the neighbors that is not ready to move forward with doing a master plan that would need to be included. So that was one of the issues that they had. But there was a lot of support from the City Council for the library. They do really want it, but they just don't want to set a precedent of making this exception and not having a larger plan. So we'll see. I'll keep you updated, I guess. That's pretty much it for land use. Other than, like Kathy said, we're definitely looking to recruit some more board members. We have several positions that need to be filled, and we will be taking applications. And also our annual meeting in June is coming up. And so we hope to see you guys there. We're in the process of planning that and getting notices out to everyone. And that's all for me.
Yeah, so anybody have anything else? Thomas Fisher, do you have anything to fill us in on?
Well, I just found it interesting talking about the short-term rentals and things, and this came up in one of the park board meetings about when the city sets minimum standards for things. When somebody comes in and meets those, it's very hard to turn them away for whatever project it is. And so that's what they were dealing with trying to change the things to put the homeless things in different places. And they were trying to come up with different categories and other things. And I know it's really tough. If you make a minimum standard for whatever it is, and a group or individual comes in and meets that standard, then it's very hard. You have to have a reason to turn them away. And so that's how you get a proliferation of things that lots of people in neighborhoods don't like, but the city doesn't have much they can do if the developer or whoever it is meets the requirements. And that's what happens with the short-term rentals. They come in and say, okay, I'm so far away from another one and it meets it. So I really think they need to look, hopefully, at some of that so that they can just not have everybody meet minimum requirements for things.
I think I've heard they are doing that, and they're going to propose probably some code changes. I have to wonder if the news recently about the can't remember where it was, but it was an Airbnb, so it was a short-term rental, and that was a big shooting that took place, and a number of people died. And Airbnb immediately announced they would never allow that person will have a ban on life for renting from Airbnb. But I'm just like, yeah, well, there's very few controls. You can check into somebody's background, but that really doesn't guarantee much. And here in Bend, I think a lot of these short-term rentals are not Airbnb. People probably make more money. They can rent it without going with Airbnb. They probably make more money that way. And I've told the city this on numerous occasions when I was acting as land use chair, I would send in comments that I thought that they really disrupted neighborhoods because you can never get to know your neighbors. Whoever was there today would be gone tomorrow. And that it would be a bit unsettling to every week see different cars out front, listen to different noises, not really know what a normal routine was for the place that was next door to you. But like you say, Tom, they have to come up with sort of neutral rules that do not target the character of the person who rents it or something, because that can be used to discriminate against people. And it's sort of the same thing with the homeless, houseless shelters, that you can't assume that anybody who just because they don't have a house that they're a criminal. You can't put them in a makeshift prison, put up a 12-foot fence all the way around a shelter site and have somebody guarding a gate. I guess you could call it a gated community, which some people like, but you really can't put people in prison without having a trial and finding them guilty of a crime. So the city's kind of up against it, but there's new stuff developing in many places across the country that look at these same issues. And there are people in the land use working group, Ashley attends many of those meetings, that are quite on top of what's happening all over the country and how similar we are to other places that have these same kind of issues. And we may see a change in some of this as the pandemic winds to a close. As Mauricio and Adam said, money is still fairly available. Interest rates are pretty darn low. And so if you come upon a chunk of money, putting it into a savings account or even a certificate of deposit is really not much of an option for increasing your wealth. So people say, well, I could buy a house with this much money, you know, and make a profit off of buying a house. And right now, houses seem to be accumulating wealth much faster than many other options in the economy.
Yeah, more than most options right now, that's for sure.
Right.
Stocks
So,
aren't doing great, so.
yeah, as long as that situation exists, I don't see that probably short-term rentals are going to go away, but
Yeah.
there might be new avenues and new regulations that'll come along that will allow cities to respond to the housing crisis. Bend is not the only place in the West or even in the country that's having the kind of housing crisis that we are. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's definitely a nationwide issue, but yeah, the city council is definitely, there was their March 2nd council session that was all about short-term rentals that I watched. And there's a few different things that they're considering. I mean, they definitely want to try to think of some incentives to get landlords to rent more to long-term tenants rather than to short-term. So they're trying to figure out a way to incentivize that and to try to, you know, slow down the short-term rentals. Also, I mean, there's only so many things they have in place, but with the 200, you know, if you look at the eligibility map, the 250-foot rule, which they did also talk about increasing, depending on how much that would help, will eventually, you know, we're going to run out, honestly, pretty soon of spaces that people can even put them. So that will at least be a limit at some point, but yeah, it's a complicated issue for sure.
there's also a lot of properties though that are nearing completion.
Mhm.
The ones at Boyd Acres and Empire have been, well, sort of under construction since I moved here 10 years ago.
Mhm.
It was all kind of leveled and had staked out streets and plumbing infrastructure existing when I moved in. And then for a long time, because of that crash in 2009 or whatever it was, maybe 2006, it just sat there for almost a decade then before they finally started doing something on it. And but most of those townhomes are going to come online, and there's a bunch of other construction that's going to come online,
Mhm.
you know, that's nearing completion. So we'll just have to see what happens, whether we've overbuilt, overexpanded. I've seen communities do that.
Mhm. It's definitely a
Anyway.
question that I've had, and I actually brought it up to the other land use chairs at our last meeting, and it's just such a hard thing to try to get data on, because we don't really know how many houses short we are, because probably there's less people moving here than even would be if we had more housing. So if we build more, it might be enough for who's here, but it might not be enough for who's coming here. And then the new, you know, new units being built are going to be expensive. They're not going to be affordable. So that doesn't
Yeah.
really help our affordability problem that much either. So
Right,
yeah.
and their data is always 2 to 5 years out of date.
Mhm.
It's everything I've heard reported by the city is, well, in 2005 or 2015 or something, we had this. And you go, well, that's
Yeah.
not even, it's more than 2 years old. It's kind of questionable.
Yeah, 2016 was the last time they had any kind of hard data on how many houses short we were, how overpopulated we were. So things have changed quite a bit since then.
Yeah,
as you
I
all
think
know.
so too. Well, anyway, we're up against our time limit here, 6:57. So I guess we'll call an end to this meeting. If anybody does have comments, you can send us an email at boydacres@gmail.com. And look forward to seeing you at the picnic in June.
So yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye.